Hey, it's Dre from Corner Notes Podcast. Welcome back to another episode. I am outside in beautiful New Brunswick because the weather is awesome. This episode is a pretty long one, so I'm going to keep this intro nice and short. I had the distinct honor and privilege to speak with a damned English dog, and that is Spike and the Gimme Gimmes' very own Andy Pinching. So, keeping this short, like I said, let's get to the episode. Quarter Notes, let's go.
Madison is 15 years old. She's in love with a retro. She's in love with chillity. Whoa, she don't like this boy yet now.
Weird.
Yeah. How you doing? How you been? Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Andre.
Yeah.
How's life in Canada?
Well, we are getting our, I guess you'd call it the St. Patty's Day storm. On the East Coast, we get one every year. Doesn't matter. We've had like a good, I don't know, almost a full week of spring-like weather. It was like plus 25 degrees Celsius the other day. And then, of course, today we're getting freezing rain and about 25 centimeters of snow.
Well, that's okay. It just means everybody's going to be locked indoors drinking Guinness the way it should be.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm a Crown Royal guy myself, but I do enjoy a good pint of Guinness if it's at the pub.
Yeah. I got spoilt recently on a trip to Ireland with the Gimmies. Me and CJ go off pub hunting with recommendations from other people, and we came across this pub called Biddle's that everybody was recommending to us in Belfast. And now Guinness is ruined for the rest of eternity because it was literally the perfect pint of Guinness.
Yeah, I mean,
Like the guy had been serving it for 35 years in there. The pub was, I don't know how many 100 years old, but you just walked in and there was 20 half pints poured on the bar. You don't even ask. He's just like, take a seat. I'll come and find you. So you don't even like order anything. Everybody knows you're there for Guinness. So
well, yeah, I
it was
mean, when,
great.
as they say, when in Rome, like, what are you gonna do?
But even in other pubs that were supposed to have like great Guinness, nothing compared to Biddles. So unfortunately, Guinness is now ruined.
Yeah. Here in where I am, we're considered the Irish capital of Canada. It's a small town,
Mm.
Miramichi in New Brunswick, and our one and only Irish pub, O'Donoghue's. They serve a pretty good pint of Guinness, but I have nothing to compare it to. All I know is it tastes great. So
Well, you have to get your ass across to Ireland and check out the good stuff.
yeah, I think so. Yeah, I mean, my wife and I have been talking about hopping across for ages. Like that's sort of our bucket list trip is to, do the whole thing and, book like rent a car and just castle hop. I don't know, like one of those sort of vacation trips.
Yeah, I mean,
Ish.
you're not even very far from Ireland where you are, right?
Well, yeah, I'm like pretty much on the east coast of like right on the tip of east coast of Canada. Like, so it
Mhm.
probably about a 15-hour flight, maybe. Bad.
No,
No,
east coast of Canada, Ireland, 8, 9 hours, 10 hours, maybe. I don't know. Not even.
I don't know if you've heard of this podcast or not. Probably not. Um, the premise is I started it during COVID, way back when, as just a way to meet other musicians because where I play mostly locally, like in bars and pubs, as you know, like when you're playing with other bands, that's where you meet, you know, your peers and get to hang out and share stories and all that stuff. So I kind of had the idea to do it virtually.
Yeah, good to meet you. And I'm glad something proactive whilst all that bullshit was going on.
Yeah. It was something to keep myself busy for sure because the walls were
Yeah.
closing in and, you needed something to keep your mind going because that's when the bad thoughts happen.
Yeah, I started messing around with a online t-shirt company at that point and just spent endless hours designing more and more ridiculous t-shirts. Ended up selling about seven, so it was a huge success.
It's good.
But now I have a catalog of like 200 wacky t-shirt designs that'll never do anything.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if they're online, I'm sure some people will find them.
Yeah, possibly.
Yeah.
I'm just not one of those guys that does the social media enough to constantly push it. Um, I have another job aside from my touring and recording job, so I'm just busy all the time. And
Yeah.
I travel all the time as well. So
Yeah.
it's social
Um,
media is a thing that's super important in my life.
yeah, I do it only because I have to. And it's like when, as you know, like with independent bands and stuff, if you're not pushing it, then you're not going to get very far or as far as you want to take it, like on the local scene. You're lucky to
Yeah,
get 20 to 50 people in a bar on a Thursday night. Like, you got to really advertise it and keep those wheels going. But you do it because you love to do it. It's not,
yeah.
any other
You could have
reason.
told yourself free beer.
Yeah. Yeah. And as drummers, it's a way to tear down the drum kit and set it back up and then tear it down again and bring it back home and set it up again.
Have you found yourself simplifying your setup as you've done that more and more?
Absolutely. Yeah. I even got the lightweight Tama hardware, like the old classic flat bass stuff, to
Right.
try and lighten the load. I got to get those Yamaha cross town. I mostly play Yamaha, so I'll see if I can get some of those. But yeah. Just to lighten I mean, one up, one down, two crashes. I used to do three crashes. Now it's down to two. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I agree. It's super important. If you ain't got any crew to help you, and your back is getting old and weak, every ounce counts, right?
You used to box, so do you still box to stay fit? Like,
Hell no.
gave that up?
I pretty much gave that up when I started playing punk rock drums. It was a great way of achieving independence, and it was a kind of a very natural step to go from boxing training and fighting to to fighting the kit every night. It prepared me in a lot of ways: strong core, stamina, coordination. It was a great discipline to have in my back pocket. But no, it was I mean, I was training 5 nights a week and then fighting at the weekends, so there was no time for that anymore when you got to be out drinking and trying to pull chicks and opening for UK subs and GBH at far-flung, you know, corners of the UK. So that
Yeah.
completely took over my life. And also, we ended up having this amazing punk squad in Grantham that we all based English dogs out of. So the disciplines of boxing went bye-bye, and it was definitely more focused on having a good time and being angry every now and again.
Yeah. And you can take care of yourself if ever you need to. That always helps.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, back in the day, in the I don't really think people appreciate kind of what our generation went through in the what Captain Sensible likes to call the punk wars. I mean, they were the kind of the granddaddies of it, and they had all the shit from the Teddy Boys and yeah, just the non-social acceptance and ridicule that they all went through. But unfortunately, when it got to when we stepped out there was an organized army of bald cunts who were um, getting recruited by the National Front and getting infiltrated by football hooligan gangs. And every night was a jolly jape on stage with us lot. So, that was a huge reason why I called it a day with English dogs in the, I don't know, late 80s. I just couldn't take it anymore. You knew every night was going to be a brawl.
Mhm.
And we weren't even like that kind of band, we were singing about doom and gloom because we had Thatcher and Reagan and the possibility of life's destruction every waking day. So it wasn't a super fun time, and to just compound it when the thing that you loved doing and your enjoyment was just spoiled by roving gangs of baldies every night. It was not a fun time. So I kind of stopped doing that and grew my hair a bit and started playing a bit of rock music. I'd always been into some of the great rock drummers. So I was like, "Oh, what's it going to be like to have a big old double bass drum kit and you know the rack and all that shit and see what that world's like?" And I really enjoyed it for a couple of years. And then stupidly, I got back into punk rock again,
Punk rock is
and
so
here
much
I
fun to
am.
play, especially on drums. That's the one thing. Like I've played in a couple different projects as well, but always coming back to punk rock drumming just because it just takes borrows from every style of music, because you can, and usually you stop on a dime and you like, do a quick change, like when they do a chord change and you're changing from a punk rock beat to a reggae beat or a cross stick and then back into the punk beat. Like there's a lot of coordination, like you were saying earlier, like into punk rock. Not to say that rock drumming doesn't have, ebbs and flows or whatever, like especially progressive, like what Neil Peart was doing, and Thomas Lang and all those guys. But to me, punk rock is it's just fun to play.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
It's weird in a way. It's actually much easier to play fast than it is to play slow.
Oh yeah.
When you're especially in recording, you're so under the microscope in the studio that when you're like wailing away, if you're slightly wavering here and there, so what? If you call it, you put it down to the exuberance of the moment. But when you're playing like slower, locked down, grooves or whatever, it's like every kick drum placement matters.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
you can get away with it in a live situation, but in a studio situation, you've really got to rein it in. You've really got to think of what's happening in the song and what are you covering up, and what what demands taking out, what deserves to be left in. It's a fine balancing act, and I think the good drummers know what to do on that respect.
Yeah, like they say, like the spaces in between and what you're not playing is more important than what you are playing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, agreed.
Um. So when you went from the English Dogs, like how did you get the call up to join the Damned? Like how did that whole transition? How many years was between
Uh,
the two?
a week.
A week can feel like a decade sometimes, but yeah.
Well, yeah, it kind of did because I was highly alcohol poisoned at the time. Uh, Cutting a long story very, very short, uh, the guitar player of English Dogs at the time changed the name of the band without consulting anybody else because uh, he was playing with the Prodigy on their Fat of the Land world tour and some of the records. So um, the music was changing for us, and he decided that using his celebrity would help relaunch the band. And yeah, we messed around a little bit, did a record and some singles, and it was okay. We had some fun with it, but we were at an awards ceremony, a Kerrang awards ceremony in London, and things didn't go very well. Really, me and Watty from the Exploited were the only kind of you know stupid drinking punk rockers there, and got expelled from the venue, should I say, several times, and woke up in the morning to be fired from pretty much my own band. So gradually learned about what I'd done that night, which was some pretty bad stuff. Um, and then found out the end of the same week that I got an audition with the Damned because my good friend Spike T. Smith, he's basically like the Josh Freese of the UK. He's got a
I follow
resume.
him on I follow him on Facebook
Oh,
there.
that's great.
Yeah, I was
Oh,
gonna
cool.
ask him to
Yeah.
join the podcast too. Yeah.
Oh, rad. Yeah, you should have done. We would have had a right laugh together. We're very, very old friends. So he
Yeah.
took over in English Dogs from me, and we've had a very concurrent timeline throughout the decades. So he actually got the gig with the Damned after the Damned played for some years with this guy called Gary Dreadful, who was dreadful by name, dreadful by nature. And uh, so Spike's band opened for the Damned at a gig in London, and people were throwing phone numbers of drummers on stage. And Sensible actually saw Spike play that night, offered him the job. But at the same gig, the drummer from Morrissey saw him play and offered him a Morrissey gig. So he had to wait until the Morrissey gig became real. And in the meantime, he'd done 6 shows with the Damned. Um, and when the Morrissey gig became real, he passed it on to me, said, "Hey, sorry, Damned, I've got to leave. I've got this Morrissey gig. It's mega bucks, but I've got a good drummer for you." So I had 3 days to learn 21 Damned songs in my kitchen at the time. And I went down for an audition on the Monday in London. And I'd kind of done all my notes, when Vanian sings this, everything was built around vocal cues. And of course, Vanian being Vanian, he didn't show up to the audition. So that was blown out of the window. So I just asked Captain to sing the first line of every verse and chorus, and we got through it that way. We did 3 songs, no problem. He's like, "All right, well, 3. Let's try another 3." So we did another 3, did another 3. Eventually went through the whole thing, and they were like, "Oh, well, thanks for learning everything. I guess we've got our new drummer." I was like, "Wow, you only auditioning me?" I found, I would come to find out that that was kind of their MO, that they would do something as easy and as quickly with as least effort as possible. And if it worked, it worked. So,
Yeah.
that week I got told, send us all your passport details. We'll get you a visa. We got a tour starting in America in like 3 or 4 weeks. So I was amazed they actually got the visa done and kicked off like a 6-week tour in the States like the next month. It was very odd circumstances.
And then you were with them for like over a decade.
20 years to the
Two,
20 years to the week.
2 decades. Wow. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, that's a pretty good run. I mean, most bands don't last, 5, 6 years, let alone, and they're still going. I know that they reunited with the original lineup and they're touring again, I believe.
Yeah, so they did the original lineup, the very original lineup, Damn 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 with Brian James, but unfortunately Brian passed away.
Yeah.
Um, and they went back to the Black Album Strawberries lineup with Paul Gray, who I was lucky enough to get to play with at the end of my Damned run. Damned have had some great players over the years. They're all ridiculously good musicians. So it was a huge learning experience for me being, kind of orchestrated, if you want, by them.
Yeah.
Because I was just, excited puppy jumping up and down, trying to push the tempo of everything because I came from a hardcore punk background. And whilst it put some like life, I guess, back into the band and made it exciting and vibrant again, there was definitely a bunch of songs that I was playing way too fast, and I didn't kind of realize it until I was listening back to recordings and going, "Oh yeah, I'm kind of killing the vibe on that." So yeah, it's important to to listen to your elders, kids.
Yeah. I mean, it's the thing that any drummer, takes experience to learn, to read the room, but slow down, take a breath. Because I know, like, for myself, like going from the punk band into we're doing kind of a covers thing, so we're kind of slowing things down with that project, and I really have to like mind my p's and q's to like slow it down and keep it consistent.
Yeah. Do you play with a click?
I haven't, but I've started to. Like up until this project, I hadn't because I never had to because everything was just like you say when you're playing at that speed, you know. Like
Yeah.
I dabbled with it in when we did our first album, and then we kind of scratched it because the vibe just wasn't there. So I just locked in like my this guy that writes the songs. We just kind of stayed in visual contact and just kind of cued it that way and just kind of played it together. Um, for the last album, he recorded scratch tracks to a click. This was kind of a cheat code. He recorded tracks to just some, you know, drum track with a metronome on it, and then I recorded my drums to his scratch track that was on the grid, so I didn't need to have like the tapping in my ear. But
Huh.
I'm working with the click more now. I just got um, an EAD 10, which is like probably the best invention ever. So I'm playing around with that a lot more.
Yeah, I've been nosing a little bit into that, and it's a great idea, and it seems to work fairly well for a lot of people. Apart from the everybody complaining that the ride cymbal is just like way too loud if they play a one up, one down
Mhm.
because of the placement of the
Yeah,
microphone,
yeah.
which
You
seems
just
like a pretty crazy design flaw.
Yeah, well, yeah, because like the bottom half of it is the trigger for the kick drum, and then the top half is the two mics that are crossing paths, and that's why it would
Yeah,
get the ride. But if you don't put your ride on a boom, if you leave it on a straight stand, it's far enough away, I find. Um, but yeah,
yeah.
it's
I mean,
all
I don't know whether I'm into altering my setup and my kind of body ergonomics to make a piece of equipment function. I think it's super important that, posture and reach and heights and distances, I think they're really kind of understated. And I see a lot of drummers playing that I'm just like, oh, boy, you're going to be like crippled in no time playing like that. They're playing with bent backs, they're hunched over, they've got, visually stunning arrangements.
yeah,
It's like, dude, you're right, your crash cymbal is like right at the end of your reach.
yeah,
It's just craziness.
yeah. I don't know how
So
Mike like that reminds me of like Mike Mangini. Like everything is so far high up and flat. It's just I don't know how he does it, but
yeah, I mean, there's Bill Stevenson from Descendants is just everything is
everything.
just within a wrist for him, and
Mm,
because he plays so fast and he plays a lot of those very fast single stroke fills, that's perfect for him.
yeah,
So I definitely set up different for whichever project I'm working on, because there's no point in, if you're playing like super fast stuff, just having like stuff wailing away. Like, I know that the studio engineer is going to be like, hey, you think you can take those cymbals further away from your rack, Tom? I'm like, nah,
yeah, no.
nah,
Just gate it.
not going to deal.
Just gate the mics and we'll be fine.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I've been fortunate to enough to record in like a lot of great environments, and honestly, everybody does it different, and very rarely are you happy with the outcome. But it depends what you're looking for. Are you looking for supernatural sound? Are you looking for something super processed? I don't know. Everybody
Yeah.
does it different. Then there's always good old drum augmentation to add on to stuff that so you can use a cheaper studio and just throw some
Some
superior drummer
samples. Yeah,
through
yeah.
it.
Throw some samples
Yeah,
on it. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, you can save a lot of crappy recordings with technology nowadays.
Yeah. Yeah. That's definitely changed a lot. How like yeah, speaking of that, like going from recording back, when you were doing like the Damn records and the English Dog records to recently like recording with the Gimmies, like how is that studio experience different? Or are you trying to like sort of keep it back into those natural settings?
Yeah, I mean, I've done everything from like the first ever English Dogs album was in a studio that was owned by the members of 10cc. You ever heard of those guys?
No,
Oh, they were pretty famous. They've had some pretty big hits. You should look them up.
I will.
Uh, we walked into this studio and we were on Clay Records, which was Discharge and GBH's label from Stoke-on-Trent in the UK. And they threw us in this studio. Like, oh, we got some time in this studio. But we walked in, 10cc's gear was all up in there because I guess they'd been recording or doing something. So this is like mega. I can't even remember like what brand it was, but it was like a stainless steel or mirror chrome finish, like 6, 8, 10, 12, 13, 14, 16, 18. I'm like, sweet.
I would have ran away. I can't.
Oh, man. No, I always had ambitions to play on a big drum kit. And in fact, when I got my first drum kit, it was a Premier Olympic 5-piece, cost about 60 quid. One of my parents got it for me. And I was so into playing a bigger kit, I actually chopped the floor tom in half to make 2 floor toms.
I mean, back then concert toms were in fashion too, right? So there you go.
Yeah, I had like massive holes in the bottom heads of my rack toms anyway, so it wasn't really any different. In fact, I didn't even have them set up like that. I had my 2 rack toms above the 2 floor toms that were over my kick drum, so I had like 4 toms in front of me. I did my first gig without. I didn't even have a bass drum pedal because I didn't know how to play it. I just everything was tribal. I don't even know whether I had any cymbals, so you just picked it up as you went along. There were no drum lessons for filthy punk rock kids back then. You just like listened to songs on the radio and shuffled yourself at the side of the drummer to see how they were doing it back in the day. That's how we picked shit up.
Oh yeah, that's me every show. I'm side stage just watching the drummer, just not, not in a judgmental way, but just in a fascination way, just, in awe of what they're doing. Because to me,
Yeah,
every drummer is different and you can learn something from every single one.
yeah, I agree. Yeah, so studio wise, yeah, the English Dogs' first album, I recorded without cymbals. They made me do it just drums, which was really freaking me out. And then I just went back afterwards and overdubbed all the cymbals and hi-hats, it's a really unnatural way to record. But Dave Lombardo did the same thing on the Show No Mercy album. I was talking to him about it when I bumped into him at a festival one time, and it's just so bizarre. And it
Yeah.
was a very 80s way of recording, which is, I mean, it can suck a dick. I fucking hate it.
Yeah.
You're taking away all the feel and the
The
something that
nuance.
might,
Yeah.
yeah, something and something might pop in your head as you're doing a take, and it's like, oh, where did that come from? Well, if you've done it without symbols,
Yeah.
how are you going to recreate it? It just makes life difficult.
Yeah. Like
So
if you're doing a drum fill and your left hand catches a cymbal and you're like, oh wait, that does fit there. And so like you adapt so that you're hitting the cymbal crash instead of the tom mid fill just because it, adds a little something to it. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
happy accidents,
Happy
happy
accidents.
accidents. Yeah, they should be praised and kept. You
Yeah.
know, I mean, we'll call it improvisation if you like.
Yeah. I meant to do that.
Yeah,
Yeah. Because I know like Queens of the Stone Age, Joey Castillo did that same thing. I know they did it on Lullabies to Paralyze album, but I don't know. I think that's a technique that Josh uses with Queens quite a bit. Um,
yeah. Their drum sounds are very dry.
yeah,
I don't know. I didn't enjoy it as a process,
yeah,
and I've never done it again. And I since then, like I've done every type of recording from complete isolation booths, which I hate, to open environments where the studio is walled off by just partitions, which I quite like, especially if you can see the other musicians. That's kind of cool. We did the Damned Grave Disorder album like that in Burbank. It was just a empty studio where the producer brought in all the vintage, desk and preamp shit that he wanted. Um, and then we just set up in the main body of the studio, and so I could see Captain, and he was kind of orchestrating me as we're kind of playing along, and that was a fun way to record. I was fortunate enough to record at Abbey Road, but in a fucking drum booth. So that kind of sucked because you're literally watching a video screen of the other guys, and it just feels weird as shit.
Yeah, that would be weird.
Yeah, recorded in what's it called, the one in Wales where Queen recorded, Rockfield,
Yeah.
Studio. So we go into that, and I'm like, oh, cool, Roger Taylor and his kit in it. I love the sound of Roger Taylor's drums, and I kind of do a bit of sound checking and go to the desk, and the guy's in there, and I'm like, doesn't sound anything like Roger Taylor's drums. Doesn't sound anything. I thought, like, that booth and this room. And he's like, well, you're not Roger Taylor, are you?
Oh, nice.
I'm like,
Yeah.
that kit is perfectly tuned. I'm playing the shit out of it. It doesn't sound anything like it out here. I mean, weirdly enough, the sessions from that studio turned out produced great. I don't know who they ended up. It was kind of around the time I was leaving the band, so I don't know who got in, but they ended up with a sound kind of that I'd been chasing for years with the Damned. But I think due to Sensible and Scabies kind of bitter feud over the years, Sensible was really damaged by drummers. And although he loved, people like Grand Funk Railroad and Black Sabbath, and he loved that kind of thing, he's like, be more like that. I'm like, well, fucking write riffs like that then. I'm not going to be fucking playing like that while you're giving me like fucking Rolling Stones riffs,
Yeah,
so
not how it works.
it was yeah. So there's been some interesting recording methods over the years. I actually did one English Dogs record. So we got back together, water under the bridge, friends again for a while, with Giz, the guitar player. And we decided, and A.D. Bailey, the second vocalist. And we decided we wanted to put a line under the English Dogs career. Like when we did that last album for Music for Nations in, I don't know what it was, 86 or 7, something, I don't know. Anyway, it was just, that was such an abortion. It was a bunch of, young kids with no direction playing way overcomplicated songs, thinking we were good enough to do it. And although we had great riffs and cool ideas, we really didn't execute them well. And the production was completely abysmal because they gave us this coke snorting engineer who just was like, just made it fucking sound horrible. So we wanted to just put a line under that and do a really good record. So we knew Andy Sneap, who, his career had become meteoric. And he's a good friend of the band from years ago, and he's a really good lad. So I was like, Andy, you think you can do a record for us now? He's like, yeah, but, I'm not going to do it under my name, because I get paid fucking megabucks for doing, like, all these big metal albums. Cool. So I put his name in a anagram generator. I'm like, all right, Andy, I got a couple of names for you. All right, Sandy Nape. He's like, no, sounds too much like Andy Sneap. I'm like, all right, Dean Pansy. That's the one.
That's the one. That's
so,
the one.
So to get this project rolling, like I was kind of enthused, and Giz had a couple of old songs that he'd done with other bands and riffs hanging around. So he sent me some stuff. I was like, we're going to trim the fat. It's going to be really short songs, punk metal, like we were always into, like we always wanted to do, but more on the punk than the metal side, but with a healthy dose of metal in there. And so I was like really enthused by it. I had my Yamaha recording custom double bass drum kit set up in the rehearsal studio, and I would go in there like 7 a.m., like do a bit of a workout, get pumped up, and just record drums. I had a Pro Tools rig by the side of me, and I'd just record the drums to clicks at tempos. I was like, oh yeah, and then that'd be a good intro, and this would be a good middle part, and and so I would literally like comp a song together, send it to Giz. The next day he'd be like, oh yeah, I'm really inspired by it. The next day I would get it back and like we'd tweak it a little bit. But really the bones of that was me sending him literally just drum tracks, him coming up with riffs based on the drum tracks. Then I would write the lyrics, send it to the singer, and be pretty enforceful about like, no, AD, this is how it's going. He's like, fucking hell, you're always a fucking bully when you're sending me shit. Well, this is the way it goes. Take it or leave it, mate. So yeah, so we completely wrote that record transatlantically, but in a very short period of time. Um, I took my recordings to an engineer in San Diego. We took all the dirt from in between because I didn't know what I was doing recording Pro Tools. He's like, well, you got like 25 takes all backed up here, like well, all right, well, clean it up. So he cleaned it up. Then we took it to Andy Sneap, and Andy Sneap spent like no time mixing it, and it sounds great. So that brings me back round to how I like stuff to sound with super fat thick drum sounds where you can actually hear all the fills that you've bothered to learn, to invent, to create. And the Damned finally, right at the end of my stint with them, had a guy who had the same kind of thought process. Was I just wanted to sound powerful. I wanted to sound how the Damned sound live.
Yeah.
And like I've heard some great recordings from live stuff with the Damned over the last few years, and that's what that last record sounds like. So I was stoked. I finally got something that I liked out of them.
Yeah, yeah. My favorite Damned record is actually So Who's Paranoid.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Interesting.
just something about those songs. Like I love the Under the Wheels is probably my favorite track on that record.
Right,
Um, yeah.
that.
What because you co-wrote that song, right?
Yeah. So what would happen quite often is um, I would present a demo to Captain, and I would go down to his place, and we would mess around and make it into a proper song, and then demo that and present it to the band. And the problem was with that record in particular, we put it to Dave that we needed a new record to remain relevant. It had been, I don't know, a decade
It
since
was a
Great
while.
Disorder. Yeah. So we're like, come on, man, all right. So he put all these stipulations in place. Well, it'd be great if the studio was residential, so it was 24/7 available, and it was near my house, so I could just come and go. If we got inspiration, we could work late into the night, we could start early in the morning. So we jumped through all these hoops and put everything into place that he asked for. And then he basically didn't show up for 2 weeks. We'd finished recording everything, literally everything, overdubs, backing vocals, the lot. Everything was done, and we didn't have Dave Vanian. Like it got so dark while we were there, and we were running out of time, obviously.
Yeah.
It got so dark that me and Captain were mulling around, asking people like Dave Gahan.
Are you there, Pinch? Because you froze about halfway through that. Coming back on. There we go. We're reconnected.
So, so where were we? We were bad mouthing the Damned, weren't we?
Yeah, you're saying the buddy didn't show up, so you were running out of money. That's all right. So you mentioned earlier that your parents had bought you that drum kit. How, like, growing up, was music always sort of in the house, or was it something that you was, I guess, born into? Like, I know because myself, I come from a very musical background with aunts and uncles and kitchen parties, and sort of the thing growing up in a French Acadian community. What was that? Was any of that present in your life?
Well, my parents divorced when I was 7 years old or something like that. And my dad had me for a while with his to be new wife, but he couldn't handle me. I was a rough kid, I've apologized to both of my parents as an adult for how I was as a kid. But so then I went back to my mum, and my mum was a folk singer, and she's pretty much always been a folk singer, and she had a lot of different taste. So there was, everything from, she played guitar and sang in different groups and solo, and was always going to folk clubs. So yeah, I mean, I guess there was that musical influence in us, that there was music around the house, but it had nothing to do with me
Right.
becoming a drummer and starting a band. That was purely teenage testosterone, the state of the world. I was super into punk. The first wave of punk I kind of missed because I was too little bit too young.
Yeah.
And by the time I kind of really understood it, there was bands like Stiff Little Fingers and UK Subs that were doing Top of the Pops, and and they and they kind of lost their edge for me. I was putting together bus trips for kids when I was like 14 years old to go and see these shows in different cities, and it just kind of seemed like a little bit weak compared to what we expected it to be. Like they'd lost their edge a little bit. But at that time, Thatcher came into power in the UK, and wow, that was a real. I mean, without Thatcher, I don't think UK punk would have been what it was. To be quite honest, she was such a driving, motivational force of evil that really united and created this scene that wouldn't have thrived as well without the constant, you know, kind of evil pinata that she was.
Yeah.
So these bands came along, Discharge, GBH, Exploited in their early years, and just upped the ante for violent, aggressive playing, and we're like, we want some of that. I was like, they were the gigs I was going to. They were the gigs that all my mates we were all going to, and we were like, yeah, we'll have a bit of that. So we formed a band, and we wanted to sound like that. Couldn't play for shit, obviously, but it didn't really matter, did it? Who could play for shit back then?
Yeah.
There's a
It
there's a
wasn't about,
certain
it wasn't about technicality. It was about, anger,
about
aggression, attitude.
yeah.
Anytime there's any type of oppression, it's that fight back. That's what.
Yeah, we always used to laugh about it a little bit later because I mean, obviously there was no internet or anything like that, so we didn't get to hear many American bands at all. There was like I think DOA released a single across there, Black Flag. We could get some of their stuff, and they played a couple of times across there. But apart from that, there wasn't much going on. And when we did start finding out about stuff, we were like, what the fuck are these American bands got to complain about? Why are they so whiny? They're, living in $1 million houses with their, you know, playing in these garages, opening up to the street on their suburban cul-de-sacs. It was only kind of later when we actually met up with a bunch of these guys and had deep discussions about it that you kind of understood that they were fighting the same wars that we were. It's just their skinheads were jocks. They were battling all the time for their beliefs and their causes, the same as we were.
Punks United. You know.
Yeah, well, you had to be.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
was a beautiful thing about back in the day. You could be from one city and go to a different city and see somebody who was kind of dressed like you and hanging around and maybe having a drink, and you could literally just go up, make friends, and that night you'd be staying at their place, and then you'd invite them across to your place, and a beautiful relationship was formed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lifelong friendships. Yeah. Here it was pretty much jocks as well. They had what they like to call the Friday night beat the freak night. So anytime you'd go to the shopping malls, they'd zero in on one particular punk and try to corner him and chase him down and chase him in their pickup trucks. And it was,
Yeah, they're all brave when they're in the pack, aren't they? So
always, yeah.
I used to have the bottom half of a cymbal stand by my floor, Tom, because you needed it every night.
Yeah.
Wish it wasn't that way. And, luckily, uh, touch wood, um, my career in the Damned and the Gimmies, the crowds are super nice people. They're there because they're passionate about music and they really, dig the band, and they're not there to be an asshole. Yeah, they get drunk and get shit faced, but they ain't there to be a dick.
Yeah.
And it's really nice to see.
How did, speaking of the Gimmies, so how did that sort of invite or call come towards you? Like, had you had any interactions with any of those members prior to that?
No, I didn't know really. Over the years, I'd met various members of, like, No Effects, Descendants, and Bad Religion. Like, a lot of bands are Damned fans, so they would often show up at gigs, and we would just be shooting the shit. I didn't really know much about that whole scene or that world, but the Damned's agent in America, Stormy Shepherd, was also the Gimme's agent in America. And when I put the press release out that I was, because I wanted to control the way I left the Damned, I put out a release myself. As soon as that went out, I got offers from several bands, and Stormy called me and said the timing's perfect. The Gimmes are looking for a new drummer, so that's just how that came around. And we had like lots of stuff planned, and then March the 13th, 2020,
Yep.
everything shut down. I was literally on my way in an Uber to the airport to go and work one of my production shows, and the boss called and said, "Turn back around, everything's shutting down." I was like, "Cool, okay." So that put a dampener on the immediate plans of the Gimmies. But Audra, their manager, she's a canny business person, and she had these grand ideas to do, like, it was called Gimme Gimme TV, where we would like film some live stuff together and then make it into like a kind of an hour long episode where it was people doing skits and fake commercials, and
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it. So it was cool to do something like that. And to be quite honest, I really enjoyed not having to work for best part of 2 years. I think I appreciated the break, but I was one of the lucky ones that was in a situation where, because I had a W-2 job, I got like help like right away, which was, invaluable. And I had some friends that were really, not in a great position, because they were all self-employed independent contractor musicians, or
Yeah.
owned their own small companies, and it was a rough time for everybody, but we came through it, of course, and
Yeah,
here
of
we are.
course. Yeah, because I know there was like some GoFundMe's for like road crews and just like everybody trying
Hmm.
to support each other through that because like you said, like
Yeah.
everybody, especially in the music industry, like you're all individual, self-employed, there's no benefits, there's no, you're not drawing any type of
Well, there
pension,
is, there are things out there if you look for them. Everybody says that, but that's not true. There are help groups out there for, you can get insurance, you can get health insurance, you can, join funds that are set up to help musicians, like ASCAP, BMI, in the UK, the Performing Rights Society. They all have help networks in place for people, but I don't know, do people look for them? I don't know, but they're out there. People should look. You should maybe put some links to some of these things.
yeah, that's
You can do
probably a
your
good
own
idea.
work.
I'll do my own work. I'll do my own research. Yeah,
Yeah.
because I'd like here in New Brunswick, we have Music New Brunswick, which they help facilitate being able to connect with different organizations that help musicians, um, which is very helpful. And then there's the East Coast Music Association, which they've had their issues most recently, but they're working through them and trying to better, with being more inclusive with different personalities and people and stuff like that. So yeah, there definitely
Yeah.
is are resources, but as far as like financial, like what you're saying for help in those ways, I think there's definitely needs to be more education, particularly in the arts.
Yeah, for sure. It's getting tougher and tougher for any of the arts to get funded anymore, which sucks, but that's uh that's something we're not really going to get into on this pod, are
Nope.
we?
No,
We're staying positive, man.
that's right. Um, Speaking of, where we're talking about the Gimmies, I've been a Gimmies fan like since day one. I've always loved the Gimmies. I think they're um the whole positive thing with music. They take the fun songs and they make it a show, and the live show is always so entertaining. I really have to see the Gimme because like where I am, there's not a lot of shows. More recently, we've been getting more and more shows, especially since No Effects came here with their farewell tour. They came to Moncton, which is about an hour and a half from where I am. So I was able to see
Yeah.
the No Effects tour with Circle Jerks, and then Bad Religion was just here 2 weeks ago. So I finally got to see Bad Religion with the Offspring. So there's more punk shows are coming. So this is me telling you to get the Gimmies to come this way. Um,
Yeah,
but
Jake, Jake, the guitar player, so I guess strung out played a lot in Canada, and he's like, we could do 2 weeks like coast to coast in Canada. Really, it'd be a great tour. So
yeah,
it's definitely something that's on the band's radar. But this band is nothing to do with me. As far as booking shows or
oh, of course
strategy
not.
or plan,
Yeah, yeah,
that's beyond
yeah, yeah.
beyond my pay. So
I know that. I'm just telling you that there is opportunity in Canada, especially for
yeah,
punk
yeah.
rock.
I've got some friends in Canada that tell me, geez, there's all of a sudden there's loads of bands coming here. I'm like, well, that's because none of them can get visas for the US anymore. So,
Or they don't want to
you
go
know,
there anymore. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
I
that's
mean,
true.
touring has become like so cripplingly expensive if you're going to do it anywhere beyond, a van and no crew. It's mind blowing the costs associated with a tour now. So you've got to do more work. You've got to be smarter about everything. You've got to, you know, wear many hats. I don't
Yeah.
know what you do as a drummer, aside from being a drummer with your band, but you definitely need to wear a bunch of hats as a drummer, and
Yep.
it's just critical nowadays.
Oh, I'm doing the most pretty much I'd say 90% of the social media. I do all the artwork, all the art for the t-shirts and the merch and the album layouts, all that stuff. So yeah, it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
The with the Gimmies, how do you guys work now? Like, because it's a totally different lineup now. So I know like the dynamics as far as how songs are chosen and the way things are recorded and rehearsed and stuff. Is that something that you're more involved with as this lineup has come into the picture?
Honestly, so it's called Spike and the Gimme Gimmes now.
Yeah,
So, the
exactly.
clue is in the name of who the principal is. And I mean, to be quite honest, he's a fucking genius. He has great ideas. The songs he picks are always earworms. And he's an absolutely brilliant frontman and singer. So it doesn't really matter what we pick. But he's definitely been open to us presenting other songs and genres. When we were writing for the new record, um, we were flirting with, is it going to be a concept? But we kind of decided it was probably more beneficial to just pick stuff that worked and um, just sounded great and fun. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of there's some AM radio stuff. I mean, we're recording it next month in San Diego.
Oh, awesome.
So that's why I'm set up with my lovely Yamaha recording
Recording
custom,
customs.
right?
Yeah, I was gonna call those out later earlier. Yeah. What's the Sparkle
And
kit? That's not a Yamaha. That looks like is that a Ludwig?
that's Spawn.
Okay, not familiar with that.
You're not familiar with Spawn drums?
No.
Shame on you. Yeah, Brian Spawn's a custom drum builder from California that I've been involved with for the best part of 20 years, and he just makes, he's a one-man band pretty much now, but makes just super great quality stuff, really finicky on detail. And he's built me several kits over the years, and one of them I still have as a touring kit that's stored in San Francisco. It's a maple acrylic hybrid, so it's all the hardware is mounted on the acrylic part of the center of the drum, and the bearing edges are floating maple. So the idea is you can swap them out to any kind of wood that you want, and then it just completely changes the finish as well as the tone. And they're absolutely brilliant drums. I'll never ever get rid of them.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and then this one for because the Gimmies wear outfits all the time,
Yep.
and they change their color schemes. And I had a mad hair up my ass for they were using these orange Gretsch guitars one time, so I was like, I'll get Brian to build me this, marmalade sparkle kit, and so he built it to vintage specs. So it's all like rounded bearing edges. It's like poplar and maple shell construction with re-rings, classic sizes. Apart from the kick drum, I went 17-inch deep for some strange reason. And it's only 20. I always generally play 20-inch kicks, just because of the way I like my setup to be. I like everything fairly flat.
Yeah, I'm the same.
Yeah, I used to play like stuff really high. I've looked at some old pictures of me playing in English Dogs, and like my rack toms are right up here and the cymbals are right up here. I'm like, what the hell was I doing? Like the snare's like almost up to my chin. What's going on? Yeah. So I mean, you learn as you get older what's comfortable and what doesn't make your body ache. Yeah. So yeah, I prefer 20-inch kicks. And I mean, with this Yamaha recording custom, I picked it up. It was a wreck, and Brian Spawn actually repainted it for me, which was very nice of him. But it's got the bloody power toms. So I've
square toms, 12-12.
Yeah, they're not square.
They're not square?
They're not the turbo sizes. That
okay.
Turbo. Yeah, I wouldn't have even looked at it if it was like that. But no, it's the one I've got here is a 12 by 10, I believe. Okay. I think it's 12 by 10. And even that
12, 10, like 13, 11. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I've had to like shuffle it just a little to the side and seat it, right on the kick drum almost.
Yeah, I had a Yamaha Power V kit that was those sizes. Same color, the piano white.
Finally, the kit I had with English Dogs, my second kit or third kit, second kit, I think. I with my first ever record advance of 500 quid. That was the advance for the whole band, and I managed to persuade them that the way to spend that money was on a new drum kit for the drummer. so I bought this Yamaha 9000 concert tom kit off of this local rock band, this new wave of British heavy metal band in our hometown of Grantham. They were called Overdrive, and I remember getting it. Like, I'd seen this guy play it a few times. Like, oh, amazing kit! That's what I need, because we're getting more punk metal. So it's obvious, sounds great for metal. So it had 10, 12, 13, 14 concert toms, 16 floor that was double-headed kick, and a like their kind of version of a super sensitive snare, which was the 9000 at the time. And honestly, I was so naive. I played that for a while, recorded a couple of records with it. Once I kind of dropped out of English Dogs, I traded it in for a Yamaha Power V. The guy at the drum shop was laughing his head off. He's like, you want to trade that in for this? I'm like, yeah, look at that shiny new white Power V. Oh, it looks like the Queensryche kit.
No comment on that, man. Because the 9000s, they became the recording custom, didn't they?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So this
Wow.
kit was like, a pre-recording custom from mid 70s that had all this mojo. And I just chopped it in on this, like, I don't know how much a power V cost at the time, 400
Yeah,
quid
yeah.
or something.
They were poplar drum kits. They were fully
Uh,
poplar.
I
Yeah,
still punch.
yeah.
You know, most stuff put through a rig sounds okay. If you're playing through a rig and you've got decent heads and you're okay at tuning, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, yeah. A lot of cheaper drum kits, or I guess not not cheap like entry level, but like middle of the road. Like I'm playing a stage custom, which is an affordable drum kit, but fresh heads on it every gig that I bring that out to, and I'm using it as sort of like a backline. So somebody else is using it. They're just like, "Wow, what kit is that?" I'm like, "It's just a stage custom. Like it's just quality
Yeah,
built."
yeah. We've got a drum store near us called Drum Flip in Vista, and that guy, like, he will flip kits for like virtually no profit. You can buy a recording custom for like 425 bucks from him,
Uh,
which is insane.
Yeah,
They are absolutely the kit that every beginner kid who wants to have a kit for several years should be looking at.
acoustic drums I think are crucial to learning how to play drums, because like I know like a lot of kids are playing on like the electronic kits, which are great to have in an apartment or whatever, but you don't have that same give and take from it as you do with a real kit. I think anyone that learns should learn on a real kit.
I don't agree. I think anybody who learns should learn on a practice pad first off. And then if they decide that drumming is for them, then situation that they're in might dictate that they can't make any noise. So I think an electronic kit is crucial to a kid's development. And because of the wacky sounds that you can get on an electronic kit, it might pique their interest enough to want to eventually get an acoustic kit. I agree that to actually, uh, rehearse for a band, it has to be acoustic. And I've often flitted between I've got an old TD10, but all with like upgraded pads and cymbals and everything. I've done like album projects on that. I've done all sorts of stuff. And that's great for not putting the wear and tear on, your cymbals and your heads and whatever. So you work out your parts and you get the basics, and then you take it on. It's like comparatively lifting a small dumbbell to work out a little bit and then getting your Bowflex gym. You should really put in the poundage to you know to to get the beef of your playing once it comes time to, all right, I'm playing a show, or all right, I'm going in the studio.
I've not used many electronic drum kits, so the feel for me always seems kind of off. So I don't get that same um inspiration from it. So, but again, I
Right.
was I was lucky enough that I had a basement with parents that didn't care about making noise. My brother played drums as well, so he kind of trailblazed that before I got to the drum kit. So
Oh, you're super lucky.
I'm a little, yeah, I guess I'm coming from a place of privilege. I don't know.
Yeah, you posh bastard.
In saying that, I don't have space to set up my drum kit in my own house, so I have to rely on the rehearsal space. And that again, that's a situation where it's after hours, so I can make as much noise as I want. So
Yeah, when I got that first kit, I couldn't put it anywhere. We rehearsed in the back room of a pub amongst all the old beer barrels because one of the band members knew somebody, somebody who knew the landlord. So it was like, an absolute shit show, and we were shit. But then when we got that squat together, we would actually rehearse in the downstairs lounge of that squat, which was above a bunch of businesses on the high street in Grantham. So at any given time, you could hear English dogs blasting out as you're doing your nighttime walk up and down the high street.
lucky are they?
Well, we had some. Yeah, incredible times at that place. I'm sure there'll be books coming out about it before some people die.
Do you have any aspirations of writing a memoir? I mean, you've been
Yeah,
in enough big, projects to, you know,
yeah, I know. I've dabbled over the years, and I've, you know, probably written about, I don't know, 150 pages, but I keep revisiting it and adding a little bit, or just thinking, wow, what a pretentious cunt. I don't want to let the world know about any of this shit. I mean, it's hard to. We've had some incredible laughs, and I've got like some incredible like tour stories and just experiences from traveling around the world. But when you put it all down on paper and it's kind of coming out of your mind, I think unless you're literally like diarizing it, or you're a creative writer, I just think it looks like a bucket of shit.
yeah. I don't know
You know, sometimes.
the No Effects Hepatitis Bathtubs was a phenomenal book. I don't know if
All
you've
right, I haven't read that one. I read Harley Flanagan's book, the Cro-Mags guy, and wow, I mean, that kid has had an incredible life. That kid, that guy has had an incredible life. And what I appreciated about the book was that it was almost like diarized. There was spelling mistakes. There was parts in it that where he repeated himself, and I'm like, I think if that's probably the way to do it.
yeah,
And then there's other people who very obviously have ghostwriters,
yeah,
and like, what do you think of this? Yep, sounds great, publish it.
yeah. No
Yeah.
thanks. But yeah, I'll have to check that book out.
And Lita Ford's book is good as well.
Yeah.
She's had a hell of a life as well, from the Runaways.
Any of them
I mean,
from the
look at,
Runaways.
yeah, well, I mean, we've all had our own hellish lives in different ways, but there's levels, right?
So I heard you're a gamer.
I mean, I'm not like a Dungeons and Dragons RPG gamer, but I like to play. I like first person shooters. I like
Okay.
space horror, like Dead Space
Dead
3
Space. I was gonna say Dead Space.
and Prey. Have you played Prey? Holy shit.
I think I missed that one.
Prey. You
Yeah.
could probably pick for like $5 or something nowadays. It's an older game, but the model of the game, the learning curve, the execution, it's amazing.
Hmm.
That's what I
Um,
something you can kind of hop on and spend a bit of time, and you're not super invested in it. As long as you kind of remember how to play it, the controls and stuff.
that's
That's
the
all
thing
I'm
with first person shooters is you play one, it's generally the same controls, to swap out your weapon, reload, and all that stuff. So I mean, I used to play PC like Unreal Tournament and stuff like that. The local area network, like the LAN parties, like we would all bring our computers together and hook them all up, and this was pre, you know, online multiplayer.
Yeah. Well, that's something that I stay away from. I literally only play like solo campaign stuff,
Mhm.
because
Same.
I tried jumping on with, I can't remember what it was, maybe one of the Call of Duties or something back in the day. And like I just got sick of like 7-year-old kids laughing at me.
Yeah,
Like,
my
suck it,
son
grandpa.
plays. Yeah. Yeah, my son plays online multiplayer stuff all the time, and my wife and I were just like, how do you do that? Because like you can't pause the game, you can't go and if something happens and you got to go and take care of something, like you're literally stuck in that game until whatever is over, and like I
Yeah.
can't do it. And then there's the whole other people that fuck up your shit. Like I no thanks.
Yeah. My brother has always been a gamer. He's been like a car designer all his life, so computers is his thing, and his home gaming PC is like a sight to behold. But he's been in the Eve universe for a very, very, very long time, and honestly, when he tells me about the detail of it, it's quite incredible. They actually, they earn and lose a considerable amount of money within that game, depending on which clan you're in. And he literally gets calls at like 3 o'clock in the morning. we're being attacked. Get online, and like 1,000 people jump online and repel this rebellion in some far-flung galaxy. It's like, well, at some point in the future, that's what's going to be happening, right?
Pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the thing, like with video. I mean, I guess that's true with like movies and sci-fi and all that stuff. Like, the Star Trek of it all, like how Star Trek had the sliding doors, and that was way before every department store had sliding doors, and like all those, a lot of things influence from sci-fi into our current day, like, and the AI and all that stuff, like Terminator and all the end of days things. Like it's pretty mind-blowing, like how much from those medias has now bled into real life.
Yeah, which is the polar opposite of a bass drum pedal, isn't it?
That's right. One of the
I
best
mean, yeah,
inventions in the world was a bass drum pedal.
all that's happened with the bass drum pedal, from the olden days to now, is it just looks like it's eating like a store full of steroids.
They all function the same way, pretty
Yeah.
much.
So, what hardware do you use?
Yamaha. I've got I'm using the FP9 kick pedal, that new one that looks like a motorcycle. Um,
Oh,
Kind of treated myself to that. It's pretty nice. It's like a long board, and the board itself is quite thin, so it's very light. Um, and it, like, of course, all the different, you can modify the beater angle and height, and you can actually modify the sprocket so that you can either be like almost like an iron cobra where it's further back, so it has the quicker spring, or you can have it so that it's more rounded. Um, yeah, my wife treated me to that, I think, for my birthday or something like that. We went to the Long and McQuaid music store, and I was looking at different pedals, and she's like, well, what about that one? I said, well, that one's like, $800. Like, that one's like $400. She's like, yeah, but don't you deserve that other one? I was like, if you say so, sure.
oh, congratulations.
I was like, all right.
All the rest of us around the world have to sneak this kind of crap into our rehearsal rooms, under blankets and t-shirts in the middle of the night.
Yeah. No, that's something that she and I, like, she's a reader. She reads, like, I literally probably at least one, if not two books a day. So she's constantly reading. She's very well read. She's the smartest person that I know. She won't watch this, so it doesn't matter. Um, but that's one rule that we have, is like, if it comes to books or anything like that, like, the answer is always yes. So when it comes time for music gear, if I need to buy new drum heads, or place a drumstick order, or go down and visit the Sabian factory and get some new cymbals, like that kind of stuff, she's very supportive when it comes to that. So we support each other in our endeavors. Yeah.
Oh, that's killer. That's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, I'm only about 2.5 hours from the Sabian factory here in New Brunswick.
Oh,
So, and I'm good
great.
friends with Randy. He's the new head of product development. So we bounce ideas off each other, and I'm like, hey, I'm thinking of this kind of a cymbal sound, and he's like, come on down, we'll find what you need. So
Oh, that's
yeah,
great.
he's a good dude.
I've been using these Simtech cymbals, which are they're a Brian Spawn's company. So they're the same cymbal factories as everybody else from Turkey. They're done to specs, and we have been through a lot of trials and tribulations throughout the years before he ended up releasing like a bunch of different ranges of them. So they're great cymbals. People love them. They record great. You know, um, got kind of all sorts of ranges of them in my backlines in various places. A Black Sabbath gig not that long ago, which was interesting
Mhm.
to have to become Bill Ward. Uh,
Not
so I ended
easy.
up getting no, incredibly challenging. So I had to get, of course, a set of giant beats, the hats and the big crashes and the 24-inch ride. And
Mm.
wow, I mean, I love them, I really love them, but they're great for a particular purpose. I've actually recorded with them as well, and they record nice because they're almost kind of low volume in a way.
Yeah.
The recording engineer on the last thing we did, he's like, wow, like kind of baritone hi-hats. I'm like, works, right? He's like, yeah,
Yeah.
it's great. Virtually no spill onto the snare mic, so killer.
Yeah. What's
Yeah.
your live cymbal setup like? Like, do you use like generally smaller, like 17s, 18s, or like are you going bigger on
It
stage?
it depends what I'm playing. With the gimmies, I flip between. I'll usually use 18 crash on the left, 19 or 20 crash on the right, and a 20, 22 ride, or more often than not, a crash ride instead of an actual ping ride. Because it wasn't very often Dave Rawn really went to a bell on a Gimme's recording. It was, mainly hi-hat work. So, I don't try and recreate faithfully exactly what Dave Rawn did, but there's a definite playbook of Gimme's style and fills
Yeah.
and recurring themes that kind
The
of
floor tom. Yeah.
yeah, the cheetah double bass drum thing. Yeah, like I did that on an English Dogs record back in 1983, I think, or four, on this song called "Survival of the Fittest" on the To the Ends of the Earth record, and
Yeah.
it was before I had a second kick drum, but I knew I wanted to do that kind of thing, so I just I'd never heard it before, but that's what I did to achieve a feeling of a double kick drum. And I
Okay.
even
I thought it was
stupid
a double kick.
no, it's
Wow.
it's I overdubbed a hi hat on it. I
That's
don't know
why I
why,
thought it
but
was okay. That explains why I would have thought, because I'm hearing the hi-hat. I'm like, well, how's he, yeah, yeah.
yeah, there's definitely a theme, and when we did that quinceanera record with the Gimmies, which was a right laugh as well, actually. Um, we While we were writing for that, I wanted to keep some of the signature Gimme stuff in there. So there are things in there where it's like, oh, well, that's the start to that, and that's the fill from. I'm like, well, yeah, it's the Gimmies, it's the cover band that covers itself.
Yeah. I mean, the formula works, right?
Yeah, totally works. You work a lot around the 180, 190, 200 BPM kind of world, where it becomes quite awkward because you are either doing like a slow 16th note fill kind of pattern thing, or maybe you're doing like a 3-4 time to get just more energy into it. Very rarely are you going into like super fast like 16ths and 30 seconds and stuff, because it'll be in and out and gone before you know, and like it's
Yeah.
like, whoa, who's that, who's that?
It's like the intro to Ghost Riders in the Sky. There's that like real quick, like in and out, and then it's right back into the yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and then like shuffling on the snare drum and stuff just to keep the energy up. It's like they're all signature things, and it's killer. I like Dave's drumming.
Yeah, I've been a fan of his for a while. I sent him a message to see if he'd come on here, but I haven't gotten a response yet. So, we'll see.
Yeah, they seem to be like one of those bands that's out all the time, like Lagwagon, Pennywise. Now No Effects has kind of knocked it on the head for a bit.
Yeah.
Um, there have to be bands that are stepping in their shoes, and it's Bad Religion, Descendants, Pennywise, Lagwagon. They just seem to be on the road permanently, which is great. And it felt like the Gimmies have done that in the last couple of years, but this year it's like, well, it's album year, and let's give people a break from us for a while. And to be honest, like with my other job, like I'm a promoter rep for a company that puts bands into casinos, so I'm constantly traveling around the states and working with some very odd characters.
That comes with the job.
Yeah, I mean it's great. I mean, I never would have thought in my life I would be sat in a limo with Chubby Checker going to a 7 a.m. TV interview where he's telling me about the very early days of touring, where there would be six of them, Elvis Presley, Chubby Checker, and friggin', all the rock and roll legends just sat bolt upright in a bus with their backing band in the back of the bus. They would roll into a gig, play their one radio hit, get back on the bus, drive 400 miles to the next place to play their one radio hit. It was like really weird, hearing those stories. And you know, fair play to him for still being in the game all these years later.
That's crazy to think that you'd go that far to play one song. And I guess at
But
that time they would have been getting paid for it, you know, because that's when,
yeah,
they were making money from, making music.
yeah. I mean, it depends on their deals and the deviousness of their management, right?
Yeah. I'm sure they were stuff in their pockets as
Yeah. I
they
mean,
do.
you've seen what's it called? Walk the Line, the Dewey Cox story.
You don't want none of
I
this here cocaine.
I think that movie is probably a lot more accurate than, like Spinal Tap, for example. Although
Yeah.
Spinal Tap, of course, is the holy grail.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, Walk Hard, the Dewey Cox story. Yeah.
That's Walk Hard. Yeah, that's the one. Yeah,
I haven't
amazing.
seen that in a while.
Yeah, required watching for anybody thinking of getting into the music business.
100%. um, all right, I got some I call these crash questions. They're just a list of questions that I ask everybody that comes on. Nothing too crazy or complicated. Uh this one, which is one of my favorite ones. Um when you're settling into a groove, are you more of a hi-hat or a ride guy? Like what's your happy place when you're just sitting behind the kit and getting into a nice groove?
Kick drum.
Kick drum?
Yeah,
Just laying into the
yeah,
kit?
yeah. I find that I follow um, vocal rhythms a lot, and I try to go between the riff, the guitar riff, and the vocal rhythms, just to make it, uh, just so I'm not stepping on them, but just to make it more kind of more movement and a little bit more exciting. That's kind of what I really like. It's good to turn your brain off when you're doing some of this stuff, but it's also really crucial to have your brain engaged as to how you're driving the song. So yeah, as far as my hands are concerned, I'm not so bothered about that because you put the fills in the right places, it takes care of itself. But the kick drum for me is always the driving force.
Hmm. Cool. Um, what's your favorite or oldest piece of gear that you can't live without? Clearly, it's not the Yamaha 9000. Um, sorry.
The drums and stuff that I've got rid of over the years is, I mean, it makes me cry, but the great thing about gear is there's always great new old gear out
Mm.
there.
Yeah,
Some of it needing to be lovingly rescued.
yeah.
I think the longest thing I had, and I only lost it when I left the Damned, was a stick bag that my mum bought me when I was very young. I had this like leather stick bag that, once again, when I left the Damned, I just left everything over there, sold a bunch of stuff off, and it just went missing out of whatever storage and lockups, and it's gone. Sorry, mum.
Is there anything like gear wise that you have to have at every show?
So pedals, because I, super, like I said, into the driving kick drum. I've always, since they come out, played Pearl Eliminators, and they're like the McDonald's of the kick drum pedal world for me. That's like, doesn't matter where you go, doesn't matter what rental house, how much batter and abuse it's had, you can always kind of put it into the way you want it to feel in fairly short time. It's supremely adjustable, pretty bulletproof. Again, like you said with the cams, it's got all that kind of stuff on it if you want to get fancy and
Mhm.
change your feel for whatever you're playing. But as long as the springs are good on them, they're absolutely bulletproof. So, whenever I'm doing a fly date, it always has to be Pearl Eliminators. And if I can't get them, if they show up with like Iron Cobras or DW5 or 9000s, I'm just like, it fucking ruins it for me. I have a I have a little private pout to myself, and I'm like, well, got to get on with it.
Adapt and overcome.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
Yeah, because I know like some places they probably think, oh, well, get them the DW 9000. That's the top Cadillac. Get them the best. It's like, well, that's not always the answer, right?
well, is it the best?
I don't like them. I tried it. If I had to pick between a DW pedal, I'd probably go with the 5000 because I
I
just
mean,
didn't
it's
care for the nine.
completely subjective. A lot of people like the feel of an Iron Cobra. I really don't like the feel of an Iron Cobra.
Yeah,
Everything feels way too light and kind of flimsy for me. I mean, I play heel up,
same. Yeah,
not super up, but I play heel up, and I just like to feel like I'm laying the beater into the head. I'm not, you know, I don't know. It's just Pearl hardware, Pearl pedals. They just do it for me. I've had a set of the 2000 series hardware, which I don't know. I don't think they even make it anymore. But I mean, I've had that for frigging decades,
yeah, yeah. And
and
that's like their regular. That's not like their hard, heavy duty stuff. That's like their middle of the
oh
road
yeah,
hardware. Yeah,
oh,
yeah.
no, super heavy duty stuff,
Oh, is it? Okay.
like ridiculously heavy duty. Yeah, it
Okay.
was those ones where you could like it had a weighted boom, and then it had
Oh,
the
okay.
whole rod, the rod that you could pull out, and then with the gyro lock tilters, like with the damned, you could mount like 3 or 4 cymbals on one of those crossbars. So it was super cool. So you could get away with 12 cymbals on 3 cymbal stands, and I used to do that quite often. Yeah,
Yeah,
but that's great when you've got like a crew
yeah,
and you're rolling around a bus and a trailer and people are helping you out and shit. But with the gimmies, I tend to go much more simple. I mean, I don't need more stuff than that. I haven't quite gone to the Yamaha Crosstown hardware or the Ludwig equivalent or whatever, but
yeah, yeah.
I've gone to Pearl the 900 series or 9000. I can't remember what they are, but they're just lighter weight, you
Yeah.
know.
I have some of the Pearl flat base hardware as well. It's pretty durable. Yeah.
Right?
My
Yeah,
bandmate is a drummer as well, and he's a Pearl guy, like top to bottom, Pearl hardware, Pearl drums, Pearl everything. So, I mean, they've always made really great stuff.
yeah, I agree. That's my. So when I'm doing a fly date, obviously I ain't going to be able to get Spawn. He's sorted me out in a few different places. But my first request is a Yamaha Maple Custom or similar because they sound incredible. Next is Ludwig, you know, older the better. So I've got a Ludwig Super Pick from 1968 in the UK. That's my UK and Europe touring kit. Um, and I just love the sound of it. It's a little bit flimsy, but I don't beat the old girl too much. It's like
Yeah.
I look after it.
What kit did you use for the quinceanera gig?
That was my Spawn acrylic maple hybrid.
Okay. It's
Yeah,
recording sounds phenomenal. Like the live recording,
yeah,
it sounds great.
yeah. The kick drum has a really unusual sound where like a Vista Light sounds like you're bouncing a basketball on concrete. The maple just kind of warms that up a little bit, so you've got plenty of thwack and thud, but it's just a bit warmer than a full acrylic setup.
Yeah. All right, we're gonna pivot for this next question. It's not a gear question. Um, if you
Oh,
could time travel in whether it's a TARDIS or whatever, um, if you could time travel to any event or live show to be a part of it, where would you go?
that would probably be um, an as yet unnamed, possibly unknown, unborn artist playing on the first amphitheater that they open on Mars.
Nice. I wonder what the acoustics will be there.
Well, I'm
A lot
sure
of
it would be
space.
indoors. I don't think you'd have to worry about weather.
um, if you got a phone call today or like right now as we're having this conversation, they needed somebody to sub in for, what band could you do that with without any rehearsal?
Without any rehearsal with the band.
Yeah.
Well, several. I mean, you send me the set list, I'll learn the thing at home as homework. That's pretty much what I do.
I mean, like they need you to go right now.
Oh, right now.
Yeah.
Oh shit. I mean, the obvious choices would be like GBH, Discharge, um, shit, Damned.
That's cheating.
Yeah, well, I'm being honest.
Yeah, yeah.
Rats broke his wrist. How you fixed? I'm like, what's the only like captain?
Yeah. Um, is there a song or a drum part that you wish you recorded, like that you got credit for?
Oh, that's a hard question right off the top of your head. And one that immediately comes to mind is the opening fill of a Machine Head record. Oh, I can't remember what the song is called, but the tag in the song is "Let Freedom Ring with a Shotgun Blast." But there's this like fill that is like a, I don't know, eight bar fill that is really creative at the start of a Machine Head album.
Mhm.
And I actually recorded in a studio next to Machine Head, and I was gushing about this fill to their drummer. And he's like, yeah, that was the last guy before me. Like, wow, it's still a great fill, right? He's like, yeah,
Yeah, right.
it's fun.
So you mentioned the Gimmies are going to be recording next month, and it's not necessarily going to be like a concept album, because I know like previous, there was like, the drag queen album, the diva album, the country album and stuff. So this is going to be more just sort of good songs, sort of like an AM radio type of a cornucopia of Gimmies hits.
There are some AM radio things on there, but there's a lot of unexpected, but when you hear it, very like, oh wow, that's so Gimmies,
Yeah.
ranging across all sorts of genres, all sorts of eras. I mean, we were toying with 80s soundtrack songs for a while, like not incidental music, songs that had been written, not songs that featured in those movies, songs that had been written for those movies. But ultimately, it was a little too kind of constricting, so
Like
we
Tangerine
kind of
Dream.
moved away from that. Well, there was a few goodies, but uh, ultimately, you don't want to kind of box yourself in like that.
Yeah.
If what's the point? The world is your oyster, and you can just come up with anything you want. And we we tried to marry, because they do really nice mashups, punk riffs going into other stuff and adding little bits, and we tried to marry some things that plainly didn't work. Like one of them was Kylie Minogue and Motorhead. As much as I wanted it to work, it just didn't work.
It
So
sucks.
you know, but we're all professional enough to like realize, well, we're not going to waste any time on it. It doesn't work. Let's
Yeah.
move on.
Move on. Yeah.
Our rehearsal room writing process is, it's very agreeable and diplomatic and creative, and we make the most of the time that we have,
So like all ideas are welcome as long as they work.
as long as they work. Yeah, like we're on the Quinceanera record, we were doing uh, "Love Will Keep Us Together" by Captain and Tennille.
Yeah.
So that was a given. We were doing that, and I was like, huh, "Love will keep us together. Love will tear us apart." Joy Division. Let's see if they work together. It was the same key, the same tempo. We're like, this was meant to be. So that was a cross-pollination, happy accident, that they're the kind of ideas that are gleefully accepted.
I'm really looking forward to the next Gimme's album, especially with this lineup, because this will be the first time that it's not Dave, it's not Fat Mike, it's Spike and his vision with, the all stars that is, the current lineup with you and CJ. What is it like being in that rhythm section with CJ Ramon? I mean, he's pretty prolific.
Yeah, he's great to play with. Me and him like really lock in because he will stand like a foot away from me and just intensely monitor what I'm doing and kind of adapt his picking and his playing around that. Once he's worked out, you can see his gears turning about like what to play. And he's not super precious about stuff. He'll go away and come back with stuff like, well, I thought like something like this. But he's also not too proud if Spike goes, well, hey, play this. He's like, cool, boss. Boop, there you go. How about that? Cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's not just CJ. They're all great to play with. I mean, Jake is a fucking virtuoso, like metal solo player and super mechanically tight, whereas John Reed has this like just sound of his own.
Yeah.
Just a sound of his own. It's like wall of sound kind of stuff that it just all fits really well. And once everybody gets focused on making this thing become what it is, keep it lean, don't overblow it. Has to be exciting to us. Otherwise, how can it be exciting to anybody else? And that's been really the mantra for this record. A lot of it goes back to very early punk stuff like, Iggy, Vibrators, a lot of early stuff, Sex Pistols. We've tried to kind of make it raw and just fun and loose. And, we know the studio that we're going to record in. We know the guy we're going to record with. We know it will sound great. So that's half the battle.
Yeah. That's the thing with the Gimmes is it's a fun band and it comes across through, everybody that's on the stage, and it comes through in the recordings too. Cause like, there's those little ad libs, the, hey, yeah. And all that, at the end of the songs, like it's just a good time. And one of my favorite bands. And like I really hope you guys do come out towards Eastern Canada at some point to give us a little treat of that.
I'm sure we will at some point.
Looking forward to it.
Cool.
That's that. We're like almost at 2 hours.
Holy shit, really? I hope this isn't one of those podcasts where it just sends people straight to sleep. I do like to listen to podcasts to go to sleep, but it's generally about something like string theory or quantum entanglement, something I'm, not even interested in.
Yeah, Scientology or some weird existential bullshit.
Yeah. Well, rock on with your good self, mate. Good to talk to you.
Yeah. Thank you, Pinch, for doing this. I look forward to maybe doing it again someday. Maybe meet in person if ever you come this way. If not, all the best to you and the Gimmes. Can't wait to hear the new record.
Awesome, mate. Well, we'll talk again once the record's out and you can let me know whether it floated your boat.
Oh, I'm sure it will. The Quinceañera album was great. I own, half the album was in Spanish. Didn't matter. It was great.
Yeah, we ain't quite gone that wacky this time, but it was fun.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thanks again, man. Appreciate it.
All right. Have a good night, brother.
Night. All right. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Quarter Notes. Thank you again, Pinch, for being such a great guest. It was an awesome conversation. Check out Spike and the Gimme Gimmes. I'll have the links in the description so you can check out where they are, where they're on tour. Again, really grateful for anyone that's following along in this podcast. I got some more great episodes already recorded. I'm working on the next one now, and it's another big one, so stay tuned. Anyway, until the next one, take care of yourselves and each other. All right, bye.
Digging the dancing queen, digging the dancing queen.